Hello and welcome back to Regional Counsel, presented to you by the Singapore Academy of Law. My name is Nicole and I'm your host for today. Regional Counsel is a series of short video podcasts on legal content catered to in-house counsel who are new to ASEAN regional work. The series is not meant to be a deep dive, but to equip in-house counsel with tips and tricks from experts of Indonesia law themselves to navigate the challenges faced when dealing with jurisdictional specific quirks. In today's episode, we'll be asking Kalfin, partner of Jakarta-based law firm Arianto Partners, for useful tips and tricks for in-house counsel new to Indonesia. Is there anything you'd like to add on, or any tips or tricks for our in-house counsel friends who are listening in on the contract formation aspects?
Okay, I think one of the tips and tricks that I can probably share is there's multiple compliancy aspect that need to be met, and of course, when we drafted an agreement, we need to make sure that not only basis on the nature of the contract, but also you need to see that what kind of compliancy that I need to fulfill in order that the contract can run efficiently without having the disturbance of, you know, invalidity or enforceability, things like that. So legal counsel need to be um, quite cautious in terms of and quite detailed in terms of catching up to the new regulation, catching up to the current procedure, and also not to mention that every company have their own company procedure and company compliancy. So that is something that you cannot miss also.
Okay, so the
there is
internal governance
internal
issues.
governance issue. So those kind of element need to be looked really thoroughly
Okay.
from both from the internal aspect and also from the external aspect, regulation, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could you share with us what some of these external organizations might be in terms of some compliance issues?
Okay, so one thing that is actually come into cross my mind is when you are in the IT service business and you cater to a certain financial institution, you need to make sure that your contract is in line with the financial authority.
Okay.
The financial authority have a certain governance that the IT service provider need to have in the contract.
Okay.
The one who actually being mandated to have that is the financial institution itself. So meaning that the financial institution will ask their vendors to comply and having that in the contract.
Okay.
So those kind of elements also something that need to be very cautious on, because at the end of the day, it it's not only impacting to your company business, it's also impacting to your uh, basically your counterpart, right? So I think that is something that um, one of the things that I can share with you in regards of the compliancy that they need to be quite sensitive about,
Okay.
and that is why knowledge of a who's your counterparty is and the probability of what kind of compliance that I need to have in my contract is key,
Okay.
because you need to make sure that your counterpart is happy and in compliance also, and you need to make sure that when you do the service, you do it basis on the prevailing regulation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So this is in relation to financial institutions having IT services.
correct,
These are all heavily regulated and have to be complied with.
correct. It's
So
very
in-house
heavy.
counsel should probably instruct local Indonesian counsel to let
Of
them know
course,
what these particular regulations
of
are.
course,
Yeah,
of
we probably
course.
can't go into them in this podcast, but it's good that you flag out to us that these are
Yeah,
particular contracts.
yeah,
Are there any other types of contracts you would want to flag out that require any regulator, or
yeah,
rather require a bit more scrutiny in terms of?
yeah. It's unregulated, but it work on the both side
Mm.
of the party. Now we are facing on the PDP, personal data protection,
Yes,
right?
yes, personal data.
PDP
It's very tricky.
is very
Yeah.
tricky, right? So even though it's relatively new,
Mm.
but somehow it need to be, to be made in a certain way that it cater to the such compliancy,
Mm.
because of the it's quite sensitive in
Okay.
terms of that PDP,
Mm.
and there is quite a few system or mechanism in order for you to comply with such PDP requirement. I think each country have their own
Yes,
regulation
each
in
country
terms of,
does.
yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of that. So just be mindful of that kind of type of regulation,
Mm.
and also seek, if your other party is a non-Indonesian,
Mm.
also seek for what kind of regulation that they have in regards of those PDP,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah, because of data transfers between the organizations.
yeah, there's a
Mm.
data transfer, and the provision that we have in the contract is actually in line with the compliancy that they need to meet
Mm.
basis on their own regulation, right?
Okay.
So those alignment need to be made amongst the two parties.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Kalfin, for
yeah,
sharing with us about the personal data privacy
yeah.
matters in Indonesia. In
You're
relation to
welcome.
that would be employment. So,
Yeah.
is there anything you can share with us for the benefit of our audience here?
Okay.
Something pertinent to note about hiring or having foreign workforce contracts in
Yeah.
Indonesia?
Yeah, I think Indonesia is quite flexible in terms of having foreign workforce in Indonesia, and we have seen quite a lot of foreign workforce at Indonesia. However, one thing that need to be noted is when you basically hire a foreign employee, make sure that you are doing it basically a fixed term.
Okay.
So it's a fixed term employment contract. So it needs to be on a certain span of time,
I
because
see.
it's related to a certain kind of obligation. For instance, like having a work permit
Mm.
and things like that.
Okay.
So that will be the key
Okay.
for you to basically get all those kind of permit,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's going to be started with those agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. So the main agreement need to be correct in order for you to get all the whole,
Okay.
because your license to work at Indonesia, they also have a certain period of time of validity,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So those type of validity is something that actually fall in line
Mm-hmm.
with the employment contract.
Okay.
So that's why it kind of makes sense in a
Okay.
way.
Thanks, Kelvin. Just now you mentioned that we just came out of the pandemic. Has there been any changes to the way contracts are drafted in light of things that might happen suddenly? For example, the pandemic. Perhaps maybe in the force majeure clauses or
Yeah.
things for business continuity and contingency
Very
that
good.
in-house counsel should take note of when drafting contracts.
Very good. Very good question. Force major pandemics. So I think now we are looking at the trend that when you drafted a force major contract, make sure that the force major contract is concise and not to be so general.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, you need to have a force major contract that actually stipulated how long the force major exists, so it can be considered as a force major,
Mm.
and what kind of impact of the force major, hence it can be categorized as a force major,
Okay.
right? For instance, like a small flood and the
Mm.
production still running,
Yes.
so it cannot be called as force major, right?
Mm.
Well, even though in the force major call they say it as flood,
Yeah.
but the flood is only like 5 inch.
Yeah, 5 inch. Maybe not so much of a flood. Maybe in Singapore, but I'm not sure about Indonesia. Yes.
So that's why putting on the on what type of the force major is one thing,
Mhm.
and the other thing is what is the impact and how you measure the timeline to consider it as a force major.
Okay.
And we see that if you come back to the word of a COVID, of course when we see that the COVID actually create a certain impact, and the agreement actually enforce that, actually endorse those kind of condition, of course, it's something that is enforceable.
Okay.
But if your contract saying that you are dismissing COVID out of the force majeure because it's already known, already predicted,
Yeah.
right? And somewhat that it's already been going on for quite some time.
Yeah.
So it cannot be categorized as a COVID. That's also fair,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So legal counsel need to be quite critical and also quite detailed in terms of determining type of the force majeure, and also how are you going to tell the impact of the force majeure, that it can be also categorized as a force majeure by itself,
Okay.
right?
So would you say that this has to be a very detailed clause with different categories? For example, for natural disasters, one, diseases and pandemics, two, things like that, with detailed stipulations. Because, for example, before
Yeah.
COVID, we never had COVID. We had maybe
Yeah.
SARS, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
So it would probably be difficult for the in-house counsel to put to pen,
Okay.
exactly what kind of
Yeah.
situations we are going to foresee. But would
Yeah.
you say that, as you mentioned, specificity in terms of detailing more about what kind of time frames would be
Yeah.
considered, would trigger something to be a force majeure event, would be useful in Indonesia?
Very useful.
Very useful.
So
Okay.
so you're looking at the time frame,
Mm-hmm.
and the second one is you will need to see that whether those conditions actually impacted to the performance or not.
Okay.
If
Okay.
it's not impacted, then you cannot call it as a force majeure.
I see.
Because
Okay.
if you see as what is the essence of a force majeure? Force majeure is a releasing of a party of their obligation
Yes.
due to a certain events. So how can they be released, right?
Yes.
So in a way that they only can be released if a certain condition precedent is already being met.
Yep. Yeah. So the conditions precedent have to be in the contract
Correct.
to trigger that. Would you say that the Indonesian government, for example, has come up with regulations to override certain thresholds of condition precedent before?
No, I think we haven't seen those type of
Okay.
conditions. I think it's more on the how the party going to structure the contracts, particularly on the force majeure clause,
Okay.
to ensure that the performance of the contract can be run smoothly, right? Without any kind of disturbance. But even though there is a disturbance, it need to be proven.
Okay.
It need to be within a certain time frame,
Okay.
right? To ensure that all parties in the contract get the benefit of the performance of the contract.
Okay. Yeah, and I would assume that parties will want the performance of the contract and not be, impeded by any disturbances.
Exactly.
Yeah, but in the event it does happen, they would want to make sure that, the business relationship can continue after this whole thing blows over.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's why there's a timeline going on.
Yeah.
If the force majeure actually stay existed for a certain period of time, then a party can sit together and talk about the continuity of the agreement.
Yes.
Those kind of things is something that you can structure it in a way that
Yeah.
based on the actual condition and the sound of negotiation that you have with the other party.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think for in-house counsel, the legal drafting is important so that the business relationship, which is not legal in that sense, can continue. I mean, all these things go beyond the law, right?
Go beyond the law.
It goes beyond the law.
It's go beyond the law.
So that's also consistent with Indonesia.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Exactly.
May I just expand further then on specific things, particular to Indonesia? For example, are there any ethical guidelines or, compliance issues that we need to be aware of when contracting with an Indonesian party?
Yeah, I think when contacting with Indonesian party, you should seek some advice from the Indonesian local council in regards of those kind of ethics, because there's quite a lot of that. probably one of the thing is anti-bribery.
Anti-bribery. Okay.
Yeah, that will be one of the thing, and but there's quite a bit of a lot of things that going on.
Okay. Are there specific regulators for anti-bribery? Is there like a commission, for
Oh,
example?
there is actually a specific regulation for that, and I do believe there's also there's also regulation for it, and in that case, that it's very difficult if you're not a local counsel to basically map it out,
Okay.
right?
Understand.
So that's why where we come into play, Indonesian Legal Counsel,
Yes.
right, to help navigate our client in terms of making sure that their transaction is being done in a compliance way,
Okay.
and it can be done in a smooth way without any kind of disturbance from the regulatory perspective.
Okay. Yeah, that would be very useful. I mean, that's where the job of local counsel is to advise businesses how to navigate the
Correct.
local regulations and how to deal with the local regulatory authorities when it comes to
Correct.
different industry specific requirements.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. If you have found this episode useful, catch the other episodes that we have. This has been Regional Counsel, a video podcast series presented to you by the Singapore Academy of Law.